This is the review for the Algebra 2 quiz on graphing and writing equations of parabolas. This pretty much matches the quiz. The beginning part of this is the non-calculator portion. It's not quite this long, but it does have these exact same types of questions on there, so you'll have to do all of these things that are on this review sheet. The first 3 questions are asking you to write an equation. They give you very specific directions in that the name of your function is supposed to be p of x. Please make sure you read the directions and that you follow those directions. So if you recall, this number out here, this controls your vertical stretch or shrink. Then inside the parentheses, this number controls your horizontal stretch or shrink. Then you have the letter x, of course. Then the plus or the minus. This is a left or right control right here. So plus, of course, plus will be to the left because it's backwards than what you think. Minus is to the right. On the outside, the plus and minus you can trust. Plus is up, minus is not right. It is down, sorry. And so that's where all these parts live. And of course, the reflection is way out in front of the number. So hopefully that quick review there. So of course, for number 1, p of x is our name of our function. It says stretched vertically by 4. And then of course, the next thing you want to look for is either left or right. We're 3 units left, and left is a plus sign, and quantity squared, and then the last part is the up. So I would look for it kind of in that order. Or if you go to write it down, give yourself blank so that you can go back and fill in the numbers. So for p of x for number 2, it says reflect over the x-axis. That's a minus sign. Shrunk vertically by 1/3. Vertical is outside the parentheses. We are going right. There's your letter x. Right is a minus. Quantity squared, we have no up and down. For number 3, p of x. Horizontally, see that first? When you do horizontal, of course, you want to do the reciprocal. So we're not going to use 5, we're going to use 1/5. That's going to go inside the parentheses with the x. No left or right, so we can close those parentheses and then down 4. For the next 2, you're going to describe the transformation and then draw the graph. Again, remember, all this is without the calculator. So the plus 2 is left 2, and then we have up 1. So from 0, 0, you're going to go left 2 and up 1. Use the parent function or the pattern of the parent function to draw the next 2 points. Right 1, up 1, left 1, up 1. Please draw your curve like a parabola and not absolute value. Number 5 has a lot of parts to it. The minus sign reflects over the x-axis. The 2 is a bigger number, so it is a vertical because of where it is, and it's a stretch by 2. We're going to multiply the y values by 2. Then, of course, we have left 4, and the minus 3 is down 3. And the graphs do that part first, so we're going to go left 4 and down 3. There's your vertex. It is from the vertex that we count the next points. It's a vertical stretch by 2. So normally our relationship is up 1, right 1, up 1. But we got to stretch this. So we're going to go right 1 and down 2 because it's reflection. And then left 1 and then down 2. Connect your dots to make a parabola. Now for 6 and 7, I thought these were not very clear, unfortunately. I think for this one you can see that the vertex is here. But the next 2 points of intersection that appear very clear on the graph are those 2. That matters. So we want to make sure we can get the stretch or the shrink correct. So of course this thing, first thing you notice is that it went to the right 4. It's also reflection over the x-axis, so we have a negative sign. And then we have to really think about, well, it's supposed to be right 1, down 1, left 1, down 1, but it's not. It's right 1, but it's down 3. It's left 1, but it's down 3. So this is a vertical stretch. It got pulled vertically. It's skinnier, so it's a vertical stretch. And of course, that value was a 3. This does not tell you what name to give the equation. I'm going to go with y equals reflection, vertical stretch, and x minus 4 to move it to the right 4. So this one, I thought this was even harder to see. Without the calculator to check this stuff, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Actually, I think it's these points right here, sorry. Not this one. Don't look at that one. So this is over 2 and up 2 from the vertex. And that's a tricky one. This is a vertical shrink. We did this in class, same points. It's a vertical shrink by 1/2. It is definitely wider, so it's not a stretch. They took it and pushed it down. So when you push it down, it gets a little bit wider. So I'm going to mention that first, vertical shrink by 1/2 before I forget. Because we know it's a 2, but it's a shrink because we can tell it's wider. So you just do the 1/2, you just flip it over. And it's vertical. If you do horizontal, we can't make it a 2 because it's going to become a 4 when you go to square it. It went left 3, and it went down 5. I wrote all over my picture, but it's definitely down 5. So y equals 1/2, x plus 3, quantity squared, and then minus 5. 8, 9, and 10, there are not 3 of these on the quiz. There's just 3 on here to practice. To put it into vertex form, this is completing the square. And remember, when you complete the square, and we want to get rid of this number right there, that's in our way, that value of c, because this is standard form, so we have to move that. So now we have y plus 5 equals x squared plus 6x. And now we have space to complete the square. You always add to both sides. Half of 6 is 3. And 3 squared is what we're adding to both sides. Left-hand side looks like we have y plus 14. Right-hand side is the variable. First sign, the number you squared. And then just put the 14 back with all the other numbers. So you end up with y equals. This is vertex form, just like the stuff on the front. So if you forget on the quiz, just look at the first couple pages. Those were all vertex form. The equations you were given, the equations you wrote, all of them vertex form. So the vertex here, remember, you do the opposite of what's inside the parentheses. I believe it's incorrect on the answer sheet. And you do the same as the number on the outside. Axis of symmetry is always x equals, and it's always that x value of your vertex. For 9 again, same idea. First thing you do is move the 7. So we have y minus 7 equals 3x squared minus 12x. Well, you cannot complete the square with this value of 3. So we're going to have to factor that out. So this side is still y minus 7. I don't know what we're going to add to it. Take out this 3. We're left with x squared minus 4x. Make sure you divide by 3. And when you complete the square, you put it inside the parentheses. Half of 4 is 2, and 2 squared, we're going to add 4. But on the other side, remember, make sure you do this, we're going to really add 12. So this is y plus 5 is equal to 3 times variable, first sign, number you squared. Put the 5 back over here. So we get y equals 3 times x minus 2 quantity squared minus 5. So your vertex, opposite of what's inside the parentheses, which is a 2, and then the same as what's on the outside. Axis of symmetry is always x equals your x value. Number 10, big numbers. It's all right, it doesn't really matter. We're not graphing these anyway. If you don't like f of x, you can call that y. So we just add that 67 to the other side. Same first step as all of them. Now the problem is, of course, it starts with a negative sign. That's no good. So on this side we have y plus 67. We're going to add something here. I'll put my blank this way. Then I'm going to take out a negative sign on the other side. Leaves me with x squared plus 16x plus, I don't know. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 squared. We're adding 64. But you got to multiply it over here. So we're really going to subtract 64, add a negative 64 on that side. So now we're left with y plus 3. Negative is still there. Letter, first sign, number you squared, which was 8. Put the 3 back over here. So we have y equals negative x plus 8 quantity squared minus 3. The vertex here, we don't care about that negative sign. It does not affect the vertex. It affects that it reflects. So we have opposite, same, negative 8, 3. And of course your axis symmetry is x equals negative 8. Then this last page is the graphing calculator portion. This is all spelled out on page 169 in your book in terms of what buttons to push and in what order. You go to the stat key, and then you're going to be right at calculate. You don't have to do anything. You're just right there. So you just hit enter. This is how you edit your lists. You have to put this in list 1 and list 2. So the top list is list 1. The bottom list is list 2. That's how this works. So this one is list 1. This one is list 2. When you put those in there, then you go to, you don't quit or anything. And when you're at your list, you just go back to stat. So when you have them all in there, then you go back to that stat key, arrow to the right to calculate, and then down to quadratic regression. Hit enter, and make sure you follow the directions. Make sure you put your numbers in the correct spot. So for this first one, we get y equals negative 2.8 x squared plus 21.9. We're told to go to the nearest 10th x minus 3.9. Do it all over again. So you're done with these, and now you're going to go and do the brothers' lists. You have to do your whole list again. Go back to stat, enter, edit, put it in list 1 and list 2, and the brothers' equation is y equals negative 1.1 x squared plus 11.3x minus 3.7. You should not have numbers that are dramatically different from mine. You might have minus 3.6 instead of minus 3.7, but they should be very, very close. Now that you have them written down, we're going to have to use them to answer some questions. Be prepared for maximum, x-intercepts, things of that nature. So for number 12, it says, use the models to predict who was able to make the ball go higher. Explain how you know. Well, now we're going to have to graph these. So you're going to go back and you're going to go to y equals, and you're going to put one of them in y1, the other one in y2. Also, you're going to have to go to your window. X minimum can be 0. Max can probably be, I don't know, looks like 10 would be fine. Maybe go bigger than that, maybe 15. Just depends, because it's really going to go out far. For the y, minimum can be 0. Maximum, I would make it 50. And in both the scales, make them 1. Because we don't have very big numbers, so you don't have to, oops, this is a y scale. You don't have to make them count by anything crazy. And then what you'll see, and hopefully you see this, is that Susie's path is like this, and her brother's path is a little lower and longer in terms of, takes a while for it to land. So Susie's made the ball higher, as hers, you can physically see that it goes higher on the graph. So Susie, and I would say that you graphed them both. And Susie has a higher max, sorry. Susie has a higher max. And that you graphed both of them. You don't have to draw the graph, you just have to say that you looked at the graph. Now you need the graph again. You don't have to change the window, don't do anything. Now you need to find the x-intercept. So we need these places right here where the ball touches the ground. That's going to be from your graph. So now that you're on the picture, you're going to go to second, and then the key that you push is trace. And you are looking for 0. And so you're going to hit the 0, and then you're going to answer the questions, left bound, right bound, so that you can get the number of where the x-intercept is. Susie's is at 7.6 feet, and the brother's was at 9 point, I think it was even 9.9 feet. 9.5 rather. And so you can tell that the brother went farther by 2.3 feet. And this was done by the graph and the x-intercepts. Now for number 14, they don't tell you which one is which. It says tell whether a linear or quadratic model is a better fit for each data. So you're going to have to go back, stat, enter, list 1, list 2, and you're going to have to enter these things. But before you do that, you can just sort of tell by looking at the y values. So if we look at the y values, 17, 29, 40, 45, 15, it just keeps going up and up and up, never turns around. This looks like a line to me. Then if you do the y values for this one, 15 comes down to 5, 2, oh, it's turning around, it's going back up, 7, 16. So this one looks like a parabola. So if you just can do it, you don't even have to draw a nice graph. You can just kind of look at the y values only. We don't really care about the x values. The x values are just getting bigger. So this is a line because the y values always increase. Because now that you know that, you're going to have to calculate a linear regression. This one is a parabola because the y values get smaller, then larger. You can even just leave me your graph. If you show me a little picture that you drew, that's fine. And so for the linear regression, that's what this is, linear regression. Linear regression. This is a simple one, nothing squared. It's 4.9x plus 18.2. This is a quadratic regression. This is your quadratic regression, the one we just did with the football. This is y equals 0.31x squared minus 5.01x plus 23.79. I did it to 2 decimal places just in case you, because it doesn't really say to go to 1 decimal point or 2. So if you want to go to 2, you can go to 2. So hopefully you find the quiz to be easy, and you're going to need a calculator, so make sure your calculator's charged up, has batteries, whatever you need.